My name is Carlo Cubero. I am an associate professor of anthropology at Tallinna University. And I'd like to thank the organizers of the event for organizing this and for inviting me to make a small contribution to the proceedings. So within the field of anthropology, I specialized in what's called visual anthropology. Visual anthropology is a big field, but my own interest within the field of visual anthropology is in filmmaking, making documentaries. That's my interest within anthropology. And so my interest is looking for other ways than text to represent a cultural experience that can be communicated across cultures. Right? Usually anthropologists work with texts and we develop concepts and we describe different societies, but I'm interested in using other mediums than text. So I started with cinema, with filmmaking. My story begins in Tartu. I was attending the World Film Festival, Maailma Film Festival, and in the Q&As and in the social events during the festival, I would end up hanging out mostly with the sound engineers. Just, I don't know, there was no specific circumstances, just luck, I guess, or bad luck, I guess. Ended up with the sound people rather than the cameraman or the film directors. And I found very interesting the way sound engineers think about the problems when they're doing field work or doing their work. And in many ways, I found interesting that they ask very similar questions that filmmakers ask, but offer different answers. Can sound on its own, without help of text or anything else, just sound, can sound tell a story? And what story would it tell? What do I need to know about sound in order to tell a story with it, with this medium? What do I need to know about the technology of producing sound? What do I need to know about how is it that people listen? These are the analogous questions that filmmakers ask themselves, like, can you tell a story only with moving images? Would it be the same story as if you were writing it? What are the limitations and possibilities of the filmmaking equipment? And what do I need to know about how is it that people see? How is it that the cognitive structure of vision is organized? So what I want to share with you is some of the themes. This is a very brief presentation, which will culminate with the promotion of this website. I want to share with you some themes that I have found interesting when looking into the field of sound studies, or what anthropologists call sonic ethnography, to describe a cultural experience using only sound. So in particular, I want to share with you some of the tensions that come up when we think about sound as a way of knowing the world. Like not just sound as an appreciation as an aesthetic device, but sound as a way to understand the world. What are the effects of listening? What is the nature of sound? How is it that sound works in the world? And of course, and in more technical terms, how to articulate that sonic knowledge through the sonic medium, rather than write about sound. So as I begin this reflection, I want to share some very broad schemes. And the first one, the sort of discovery that I made for myself, although it's very well known in the community, is that the process of recording a sonic experience or the process of listening to it is never innocent, is never objective. A simple way of illustrating this lack of objectivity that exists with sound is what writers call the cocktail party effect. So this speaks to a situation. Let's say you're in a jazz club, you're in your favorite bar, right? And the band is playing in the corner. Everybody in the bar is talking. Your table is talking. People are having drinks. The waitress is dropping glasses. It's a very loud environment. And if you take a microphone and you stand right in the middle of the bar, it'll just record static, just air, noise, and sound. However, you sitting there, you're still capable of focusing on the conversation of the person in front of you, switching to the conversation here, You're bored by the conversation, so you pay attention to the band, right? So what I'm getting with these experiences is that listening, we have the capacity to select what we listen to and what to ignore. We have that capability, and writers call this the cocktail party effect, right? You're in a cocktail party and you can still focus on the conversation in front of you or that one. So listening, therefore, is not a neutral thing, just like stuff that enters through these holes and we just take it in, but rather listening is a practice. We do not listen to the same way that microphone records. And in fact, different microphones record in different ways. Some microphones that record only directly, microphones record sideways, other microphones record in a cardioid, in a heart-shaped manner. There's microphones that don't record sound, but they're called contact microphones, and you put them on a hard surface, and it'll record the sounds of the table. Even though you don't hear it back there, it'll record this. So I suppose there's different kinds of microphones, and none of them really work in the same way that our ears work. In effect, what I'm getting at is that we choose what we listen to. It's a choice, what we listen to. So listening from this position is learned. It's something that you learn how to do, and you learn socially, where your society or your parents or your culture teaches you what is music and what is noise, right? For instance, what is music or what is noise? And so listening is not it's not automatically a biological practice. It's not an object. It's not a practice of nature that we just listen to automatically. What sound studies people, the recognition of this cocktail party effect, they call it conscious listening. Conscious listening, which is it's an approach of the recognition of this reality that listening is a choice. And so now it places the researcher in a position to not take sound for granted, as if it were an automatic object of nature, but rather you're listening consciously. You try to listen with attention. So a second point that I found interesting in this investigation is that this possibility, this is a dilemma. It's a question of what is the kind of knowledge that is being communicated when you listen to a sound recording. Let's say you listen to, we're going to listen to some sound recordings now, but let's say I go to Berlin to do research on, let's say, street culture in Berlin, and I take my sound recorder with me and I record the buses, the trams, etc. And this thing that I'm recording, this object that I'm recording, is this sound work, is it an illustration of an already existing world outside of me? A representation of the objective world outside? Or is what you're recording a composition made by myself, the recorder, the creation of the sonic researcher? So what I mean by this is that, so I have my microphone, I'm in Berlin, let's say, in the metro, and I have my microphone, it's a directional microphone. I need to choose what to record to. I choose that, or I choose this, or I choose that. Right? I cannot just stand in the metro like this, right? I have to choose what to record. Right? So in that regard, I'm not just doing a cocktail party effect, but I'm doing a cocktail myself of selecting. So the question is, what you're listening to, is it an objective rendition of how the Berlin tram station is? Or is it a composition that I made myself in the editing and the moving around? And that's a dilemma that I found interesting. So I'd like to share with you two general approaches, or let's say movements, artistic movements, that I have found inspiring in thinking about these questions. So one approach is the work of Pierre Schaeffer. Those of you taking notes, I recommend you look up musique concrète in French, or concrete music, put it in French, musique concrète. It's kind of it's a way of composing initiated by Pierre Schaeffer. So what musique concrète or concrete music is associated with, it's a concern, and this is early 20th century. We're talking pre-World War II, or around World War II area. We're talking about a concern about separating sound from its original source. Separating sound from the original source. So Pierre Schaeffer would produce compositions, like musical compositions, but they were made from recordings done of daily life. He would record, for instance, trains, trams, cafes. That's all right. Okay. He would go out to the streets in Paris and record trains, trams, cafes, factories, and edit these sounds in his studio, edit them to tell a story, right? The story of a weekend, let's say, or a story of a working week. So in this process of editing, the sounds would be separated from their visual reference, right? So let's say you record a truck. He would record a truck passing in the street. What you hear is not the truck, because you cannot record truck. What you hear is of the truck passing, right? So what's happening with Piaget is separating the sound from its visual reference. So what this does, you don't hear truck or car. Instead, you hear, you hear something. You hear something. What you do with this dissociation is that the listener builds new meanings through new forms of composition. To put it simpler, this thing of dissociating sound from its original source, sound studies writers call this the sound object. The sound object is when you're listening to the sound just on its own, without visual reference or concern about where did it come from or its origin. So it is the sound object is it's when the sound object is a perception that is worthy of being listened to in and of itself. The sound object invites the speaker to listen to a piece as a phenomenal experience, in a very similar way as, let's say, listening to music. When you're listening to music, Mozart, Bach, etc., you're not thinking about the politics of 18th century Vienna, or was Beethoven upper class or lower. Rather, what you're working on is you're listening to music with a pre-semantic or pre-conscious engagement. You're listening to the sound just on its own terms, without thinking of the sociology or the culture or the social context behind it. So the music concrete, I find this interesting because philosophically, because it speaks to listening to sound as a time-based experience. So this connects with the Platonic notion that music and sound is the art of organizing time, or time. That sound organizes our sense of duration, right? And to work with sound, whether music compositions or sonic compositions yourself, to work with sound entails the crafting of time through rhythm, temporalities, and you create a sense of time for the listener. We all experience this when you're listening to a song and you don't know how long the song is. But you lose yourself in the process of the song. So sound, from this perspective, is time-based, and this is something I want to keep in mind to contrast with this. It's a time-based medium. The Russian filmmaker Andrei Tarkovsky, he made a similar argument for cinema, where he wrote in Russian, but it's translated to English. The dominant, all-powerful factor of film image is rhythm, expressing the course of time within the frame. So for Tarkovsky, to experience cinema is to experience time, duration. Right? And so to listen or to watch a Tarkovsky film is to experience time or duration and rhythm. Another approach, separated from this time rhythm business, comes from the ethnomusicology and folkloristics. I'm thinking of the work of Alan Lomax, A-L-N, Lomax, L-O-M-A-X, if you want to look him up. He was an American mid-20th century folklorist. And he is very famous he's possibly the most prolific and productive sound recordist in history. His archives are vast, And his recordings now represent a singular museum piece. And his work is being digitized, so I encourage you, if you're interested in this theme, to look him up online. So what he was worried about, the bulk of his work concerns the recordings of African American musicians in the south of the United States during the mid-20th century, in the years after World War II. So this is an interesting period in American history because it represents a mass migration of African Americans from the south of the United States to the industrial cities of the north. Massive migration from the south to the north. And Alan Lomax was interested in how is it this process of rural to urban migration, how this is presented in music making, in sound. Okay. So when he was so his collections of recordings, they offer us a glimpse, a musical glimpse, of a way of life that was undergoing rapid change, a very rural life that was emptying. People were leaving and moving up to the city. So this disruption in folkloristic music due to migration and industrialization is the emergence of rock music and blues. So Alan Lomax recorded the emergence of rock music and blues. So something that Lomax is known for, and this is what I'm interested in, not the migration stuff, is that rather than bringing musicians to his studio to record, he would go out to the musicians' homes. He would go to their houses, go to the places where they're actually playing, in the balcony, in the main square, in the rehearsals, right? And he would record them in their place, in their context. Another theme is that he used very unsophisticated recording equipment, very simple recording technologies to keep, so he could be mobile. So he could be mobile. Right? So all of these recordings were made on site. That's what I'm getting at, on site, in the place where they're recorded. So there's a lot of mistakes in these recordings. So the musician is playing and you hear the train passing in the background, or you hear the crickets playing, or children running around in the area interrupting the thing, or the musicians would make a mistake, and try to start over and start again. Some of these recordings are made in bars and cafes, so people are drinking and you hear the clinking and clanging. So while these are technically musical mistakes, what's happening is that it's giving us a sense, it's immersing the listener in a specific sonic world, right? Giving you a sense of how does it feel like to be there, or how does it sound like to be there, like you're somehow transported to that space. So this approach, the Alan Lomax approach, and I'm mentioning Lomax, but there's many other anthropologists that work like this. This approach suggests a connection between place and sound. Place and sound. So these recordings are not only about a description of a sociological situation that was happening in the United States at the time. It is more than just an illustration of a society going through a process of modernity, but these recordings also register nuances of place, local accents, and other secondary things that occur outside of the recordings. Passing trains, cars, crickets. So sound, this recalls researchers that have pointed out to the relationship between sound and space. So sound, in this formulation, needs a medium in order to exist, right? So contrary to this, I'm not familiar with physics, but the theory as I learned it is that contrary to light is a photon that travels through space. It's an object that travels through space, regardless of it has its own motivation. Whereas sound is, I'm not sure, it's more of a wave that always requires a medium in order to exist. You're not listening to my voice, in theory. You're listening to air vibrating your eardrums. And before that air vibrates your eardrums, it's vibrating against the walls and the room, and etc. Right? And if this room had carpets there'd be less echo here. And if there were no carpet, then my voice would be even louder than what. So you're not listening to my voice. You're listening to the reverberation of the room. You're listening to space, the air conditioning from that's kind of like the theory. There's a connection between sound and space. There's no sound out in outer space. Astronauts, when they say there's no sound in outer space, because there's no air. There's no air there's no air, so there's nothing for sound to travel through. So what we're looking at is that sound is we can think of sound like the musique concrète people. They say sound object. We can think of sound as object, but what this Alan Lomax's work is pointing at is that sound is not an object necessarily, but it's space. It's a constitutive experience of our sense of space, a sense of direction, our sense of up and down. Okay. So the spatial experience is made up of these reverberations. The historian Emily Thompson, I'll touch it every now and then, thanks, yeah. The historian Emily Thompson, she's written a book, the book is called The Soundscapes of Modernity. And it's a history of architecture from the perspective of sound. So the book describes the process of designing of amphitheaters, the ancient amphitheaters, the design of contemporary urban cinemas, contemporary theaters, the design of skyscrapers, factories. For her, the process of architecture, the art of architecture, is the art of organizing sound, not vision, right? And she makes the argument in the book. Okay, so which brings me to this website. So this website, Radio Apori, I want to present it as an example. I use this website often for my own entertainment. When I'm doing the dishes or working on something banal, I put this in the background. So Radio Apori, this is an art project started more than 15, certainly more than 10 years ago. A Berlin-based artist named Udo Noll. And what this is you'll see in a second, this is the landing page. When you put radioapori.org, this is where you land. But what we're basically is a Google map. It's a Google map. And on top of the Google map, there's points that have specific sound points. And these are sound recordings that people have randomly uploaded to the site. We can upload stuff ourselves. We can record something with your phone, and you geolocate it, and you upload it to the site. Let's give an example. I'll just choose a random place. This is for sound, yeah? Let's choose a city. Yeah. I'll just click like this random. See where it takes us. Oh, the border. Yes. Okay, someone recorded. In Istanbul, in the Grand Bazaar, there's a bird market. It's a recording of the birds market in Istanbul. In Baltiyam, you hear the voiceover of the trains coming and the people passing now, coming out. In London, in front of the Parliament, there's the bridge. Someone recorded there, and you hear all the languages of the world, people crossing the bridge up and down. So these are all spontaneous, improvised recordings done in specific locations. recorded with very simple technology, mostly people's phones, right? And they uploaded to the website with some basic technical information of when it was recorded, the time and place. Right? I'll let it there so you guys can continue exploring on your own site. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, sound and place is what I want to get at. That there's to start something that this experience of looking into this stuff has what I've learned is that it's not even a reciprocal relation. It's like sound and place are one entity, are experienced at the same time. In the same way that time and sound are experienced at the same time. Okay. So I don't have a specific argument or a lesson here, but if there were an argument to be made here, it suggests that engagement with these kinds of works, with sound works, is an active process, not a passive process. So what I mean by active process is that you have to listen to these pieces with attention. These pieces will not tell you what they're about. These are not it's not that you click on this site and a voiceover will come and tell you, we're currently located in the Baltic and this is Tallinn was a Baltic German city and now it's Estonian city, and none of that sociological information, background story will be able. It's just a presentation of place. And the idea here is to empower the listener to you listen and you come up with your own interpretation, your own sense of what is happening here. So this, what writers of this approach, they describe listening as an active process where you have to do your own cocktail party effect. So you listen to this piece, you close your eyes, well, I close my eyes, and try to identify the different sounds that make that. How many birds can you listen? How many cars are passing by? What is the echo? How is, and in the process of answering those questions, you develop a relationship to the piece, right? So we're talking about that listening is an active process where objectivity, like the structure, the ideology, the sound itself, and your subjectivity, your ego, your agency, your consciousness, your ability to think creatively, these two things, they come together in that event. So the practice of listening elicits what researchers called intersubjective connection, whereby the phenomena and the semiotic meaning happen at the same time, where your own subjective experiences and associations and the objective world out there, they come together and they happen at the same time. And in this vision, sound is described as simultaneously concrete, hard, but also formless and transitory. Right? It's a concrete formlessness. Or rather, sound takes the form of whatever space we are in, like sound on the water takes a different form than sound above the water, etc. Okay. I got lost. Okay, so to listen with attention, to listen consciously, highlights that the social experience is sensorial. Is sensorial. It's not ideological. We sense the city. We sense the city. We listen to the city. We smell the city. We inhabit the city. The city is not an ideological space, but it's a sense. It's a sense space. And so as you're experiencing this sense space, you give in to the sonic moment, to the now, right? So to listen to these recordings, you're listening to the present, the now, the present as is now. Right? And so in this context, there's a question as to what is it that is being represented here. What is it? So you listen to this tour of people walking by and the steps, etc. So what is it that is being communicated here? There's this concept that I like repeating, and it's called the discourse of sonotruth, sonotruth, or sonic truth, or sono meaning. It is a way of describing what kind of truth or what kind of meaning is happening when you're listening to this piece. Well, it is the truth or the meaning of sound, right? So if you're bored, if you approach the city sonically, right? So the truth that you will arrive to will be a sonic truth, a sono truth, or a sono meaning. So focusing on questions of sono truth can highlight the possibilities of the medium itself and bypass questions that claim that anthropological knowledge is limited to what we can communicate with text. So rather than focus on ideology, on history, and the resentments that those create, rather this sono truth speaks to the moment, the event, the phenomena itself as you experience it. Right? So thank you very much, and those are my notes. Cheers.